So we'll go do
I'm watching your post, it's like,
that.
oh, it's walking. Oh, it's right.
We put our well, did you really? Yeah, we did our Saturday outside, but the inside's decorated with Thanksgiving. A little bit switched away, and we're hosting Christmas. It is gonna be nice, but that's good, I like it. Michael's Christmas, which will be awesome.
This girls only had like 30 before that.
You were talking about.
You just didn't spread it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fun. You might want to wait because it's a lot more. We've got one night. Not like these craziness of it, yes. We went to Saturday morning, we did coffee. She had Friday night.
Yeah, that's right. If you sit in the front row, some will make eye contact and you'll call them. They say, you know, love's trouble.
Yeah. I do. I just.
What's it named? We'll be right back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I was confused about it. I was like, maybe that's a good memory. Yeah.
So Cheryl, since you're doing stuff in Colorado, are they big Bronco fans?
Are they what?
Big Bronco fan, Denver Bronco fans? Or is that not a big deal?
No, actually, no. I had my legal update class in Colorado last week.
How was that?
It was interesting. We have new radon disclosures and material, what was it? All these weird disclosures we don't have here.
Oh, what?
Weird disclosures that we don't have here.
Yeah.
You know, but similar to here.
With the work disclosures, California.
Oh, really?
San Francisco, it's like a book with all their earthquake, all their disclosure.
Yeah, I bet.
You do business there, you're used to it. I mean, you do it all the time. So, around you'll get used to all that kind of stuff.
Well, the radon disclosures are a lot, here, I'll move it.
It's a good deal.
Sometimes you don't have to. The radon disclosures are like the lead-based paint disclosures. You have to give those to and sign off on it. And if you don't sign off on it, they termination.
Where do you want? Can you bring your chair? You also have a little-based paint disclosure.
Yes, they have to, but radon is like a new one.
So the stellar.
Well, this morning I was because I didn't get injury at all.
I guess you get the results on the air, am I right?
No, they go to the doctor first, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's a cute picture
Little.
of everybody but me.
Okay.
He did that, he got hungry.
Where's my car?
How are we doing this morning? It's afternoon, actually. I don't see if you're paying attention. And you weren't. How are you doing with the contract? Track of the time of day. Come on, work. How you doing, Jerry? That'd be a scary thought.
Well, thank you for being here. We're very fortunate to have someone who's got more and experience with all of this than any of the rest of us in the room, because he was at the NAR meeting last week. I would suspect at some level this was a topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. What I'd like for us to be able to do here, Mike's going to have to leave about 2.
I may have changed that. I think, I'm waiting. I think we're okay.
Okay, well, good. I'd like for him to give us somewhat of an overview. The one Texas Realtor sent out that they just received.
This is a new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of those add-ons, and it's interesting, Texas Realtors in their
I've read it.
email last week sent this out, and it has, in this, the latest add-on lawsuit. And it's got Texas Realtors, a number of associations, Houston Association, Austin, MetroTex, Antonio, does not have CCAR. It's got a number of real estate companies listed as defendants, such as Ebby, Fathom, things like that, Keller Williams Realty Inc., which is our franchisor, but not us personally. It's really interesting, and we'll visit about that to whatever degree. But I'd like to see if Mike gives us a little bit of overview where we have a sense of kind of what we're talking about. And I'd like you to have the opportunity to ask questions. We're seeing, as I've had conversations with, like Joe, Joe Flores, and talking about some of what they see, and Joe and I talked, Larry and I talked about these. This is a great opportunity for us to move forward at a higher level. We're going to do some things that we're already doing. We're just going to do them in a more purposeful, intentional manner, being right at the heart of who we are and what we do. I say this and I get in trouble. Hopefully Mike won't be mad at me on this. My philosophy is if half of the realtors in the United States left the business, we've got enough people left that can handle everything that's out there, and I'm okay with that. Because they probably should have left anyway, so now that is. And what did Gary say? It's more than your fair share? Yeah, your unfair share. So Mike, go ahead and talk to us, and we'll see what you guys have come up with, and we'll talk about it. And we'll talk some about, in this letter here, some of my recommendation on policies. So
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Rushing to get here. I've just been laying in an MRI tube for an hour. Or twice, 25 minutes and 25 minutes, 2 different little areas. So I'm going, okay, so anyway, so glad to be in front of you. I haven't been up here in a while. So can we start with some really fun news? Really good. We got a lot of good news, actually, but really fun. I've been teasing a few of you about our upcoming annual event. It's our key educational event called Great by Choice. It's going to be January 9th this year. Every year when it's over, and Terry's been to all of them and some of the others, I'm going like, what do we do next year? Because they're so good. We've had like the cream of the crop of speakers and presenters and topics. And so I've got it lined up for this year. So thank you for being here and for your interest in what's going on. So I'm going to tell you now who they are.
Yay.
So, and then we'll get more information out, and you'll see information on them. And I've seen each of them present. They're all amazing. And but we've got a variety of topics, so we're not just going to have one road, but I think they're all appropriate. First, we're going to have about an hour on AI. A guy named Jason Flynn out of Santa Cruz, California, saw him present a couple of weeks on it. He did an excellent job, brought a lot of clarity to me, and he's thrilled to come be with us. So we'll, and it's not just, it's pretty entertaining as well. Then we're going to follow with a guy named Ken Pozak. Ken is like the standard for social media, particularly marketing yourself through YouTube and videos. And he's very entertaining. He's gotten all kinds of awards and recognition and national speaker. He left Keller Williams for about 6 or 9 months, realized his error. He's been back and he's one of our biggest flag wavers. And I told Denton about it. Denton got really excited. He said, he's coming? And I said, yep, he's coming. And then our closer, our afternoon, will be a lady from Springfield, Missouri, I believe, or St. Louis, Springfield. And her name's Jen Davis. And she is the head of all MAPS coaching and training. And she's ages don't matter, because she's somewhere in her 40s, and she's got a team of about 15, and very, very successful. And I've seen her present, and her topic's going to be based around lead gen like you've never seen it. She has a graphic called the leak in the pipeline. Like there's a lot of ways to leak. We don't know, there's a lot of, but where's your leak? How to find your leak, how to fix it. Great presenter. So we've got a great day. I'm really looking for it. It's January 9th. It's going to be at the Angelica. We're going back to the Angelica this year. It's a fun format, and details forthcoming on
No,
that.
Mike, we're not at the Angelica.
Oh, we're going to, where we're going east?
We're going
Plano event?
to the Plano Event Center.
And like I meant to say, we're going to the Plano events. Got to leave it to my leaders, so, and they've been out and checked it out. It's going to be amazing. So anyway, so to the topic of the day, there's been a lot of press going on this particular topic, and it's interesting. We being realtors and a part of our world, it kind of shakes us a little bit. And a lot of the public, even a lot of the legislators, people in Congress going like, what's going on? I was talking to our lobbyists, and they said, we haven't heard anything about this. And so, well, what can we do to support you, and so forth and so on. So let me tell you what I know. There was a class action suit filed in Missouri. There are other suits as well. There's one that's been filed in Illinois. That case, that trial is coming. And then other copycat suits like the one in Texas that came down last week after the verdict came in on the Missouri case, which is the one that's getting all the attention. And so it's all plaintiff attorneys, trial lawyers, and they're going after big claims. They've already got a couple proposed settlements you've probably read about with Remax and Anywhere, which used to be Realogy, which is the Coldwell Banker, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, and a couple of Century 21 brands, okay? Those are not final, by the way. So there's a lot of jump to conclusions around it. So what's behind it? The suit started in 2019. So it just got to trial after 4 years, and they've known it was coming. They've been preparing. So they finally got it assigned to a judge in a court in Kansas City. After like a week or 10 days of testimony from the plaintiffs, from several of the defendants, including Gary Keller, who was on the stand, as well as the Berkshire Hathaway president and others. The jury was in the jury room in the decision-making process for the verdict less than 3 hours, which surprised a lot of people, like 2 hours and 48 minutes. And they came back and said that our industry as a whole, collectively, is coerced for price fixing on commissions, and it artificially inflated the price of homes and affordability for buyers. That's the incident. The public has been harmed because of the bad realtor community who's been doing this for 100 years. 115 years, and with our systems, our laws, and our policies, and great stewards of private property rights and all the community work that you do and others do, et cetera. So, but anyway, I was in 2 presentations where I got the process and the history and the events from Katie Johnson, who is the general counsel. She's amazing, of NAR, the chief advocacy officer and general counsel. What's interesting is when you go into, how many of you served on a jury? Okay, good. Oh, wow. I'm pretty good at getting dismissed. I served once. I was formed in the grand jury back in the 80s for Collin County. So they get a pool, and everybody, a lot of people get invited. 100 people were invited. 20 of the people immediately got dismissed for emergency purposes, which they could claim hardships or jobs or careers or whatever. And then both sides go through a process. And this is the jury selection is very important. And they keep narrowing it down. They got it down to about 30, and each side gets 5 strikes. So if the plaintiff said, we really want this one, or the defendants, we can say, we don't want them, that's out. Well, that's a strike against us because we kicked out one of theirs. And after they use up all their strikes, it comes down to 12 people, or 8 people, I think, 8 jurists. It was an interesting mix, and I know this is recorded, so this is all very general, but I think only 4 were homeowners that experienced a real estate transaction in any way. And of the 4, only 2 had used a realtor. One did it themselves. The other one said somebody was claiming to be a part of it because he lives with his parents. And then the other 4. So right there in jury selection, you go, well, and the kind of testimony that's given in a case like this, I'm sure they were like, they don't know the language and the process and so forth. So But anyway, that's the process, jury of your peers. Now what happens is, it's being appealed. And we won't know until January, NAR, and the other defendants, which includes Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, Remax, and Anywhere, even though Remax and Anywhere have reached tentative settlements. And by the way, the settlement just means it's not an admission of guilt. They're just saying, this is the most we could possibly pay and still be in business. And one was 88 million, the other was 57 million. Where it's like, and if that, we're out of business. So that's the reason they settled there. And Berkshire Hathaway did not settle or back down. They were going, and Keller certainly says this is just wrong. We're going to fight to defend our agents in our industry. So anyway, it came down as a guilty verdict. So the appeal will be heard, set in January, and they won't have that date until sometime in March. So nothing is happening right now. Nothing's really been decided until then. Now, on the appeal, instead of a jury of your peers, this is in the 8th District Court, there'll be 3 judges who know the law, who understand law. And we are confident, of course, those sides claiming confidence in their position, but NAR is confident that there were several non-admission of certain points of law or cases that would have flipped it. They are going for a complete reversal or dismissal. Whatever happens there, there's going to be more suits. So this is not going to, we're not going to really know what the kind of jelly form almost will be for several years. It could be 2, 3, 4 years or more. But the process has begun. It'll get some attention. The bright lights on it now because everything's so current. And then we already got, as soon as that's out, here comes, and I think when I read all 35 pages of the Texas suit, it includes all the people you're talking. It also not only does it name, it's got misspelling in it. It's like 5 different law firms, from Oakland to New York to Dallas. They're going together as plaintiff. Let's just go after that group. Well, I guess California's probably coming, and Florida. Who knows where this goes? But Keller Williams Realty International, Inc., Austin, is named, as is Evie and their companies, Dave Perry Miller, William Drew, what's their other, Evie's got one other brand.
PenFed?
Well, PenFed's that's Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're all named, but interestingly, they pulled out a few, JPAR, EX, everybody's named. It's just, they threw it in a pot. But they also named a few individual companies. One of our neighbors, 75, Bill Webb, is named. I don't know why they kicked that off. This Lance Logan, who's been one of our speakers at Grace by Choice out of Houston, their name. It's kind of a grab right now, as I see it. So in the end, what does all that mean? First of all, I think we are so fortunate, and I give all credit to Bob and all in our leadership. We're way ahead of the curve. We're not going to have to do as much scrambling. Our paperwork, our training, our process, our ongoing information that's provided is the standard. Okay, so we're sitting in the right seats to deal with this and cope with it and react to it and deal properly. I'll let Bob go into some of the tweaks or suggestions he's going to make, but anything that they're talking, there's been no collusion. We don't fix prices. We have recommended prices. We suggest this from a business model. There's nothing wrong with that. So do car dealers. So do attorneys, so do trial lawyers. They'll say, and I just learned that trial lawyers, if they win, they still get fees in addition to their 22 to 38% of the award. So how many of you see, what's that guy who gets sick of all his ads? He's on radio and TV all the time.
Thomas J. Henry.
Huh?
Thomas J. Henry.
Thomas J. Henry, right? And it shows $50 million suit, defendants plaintiffs get 30 million, I get 22 million and whatever. So, it's just part of, that's capitalism, set fixed fees. But there's certainly been no collusion among the industry to us getting together with name one, Remax or somebody else and saying, hey, let's do this. That's absurd. And the competitive market is at work as far as fees. You're flexible. I mean, most, I won't say all, most have negotiated commissions. I have, And for a lot of reasons, multiple clients, price point, certain personal situation of distress where you want to be the help. I mean, it's just, but also we're in a business to provide a service, do the right thing and make a living, a reasonable living. So, so stay tuned. I asked to put this slide up. I don't looked at it, but that's about where it belongs. Right now, everybody's got the red X in the middle. And it doesn't need to be. Keep doing your business. And Bob's going to guide us a little bit here in a little bit. But I think if you can read it, it's probably more clear on the monitors. Circle of control, that's what you can control. How you invest, how you spend your money, who you spend your time with, where you work, how you exercise, how you dress. Then that's a circle of control. Then you go outside the circle of concern. It's income tax rates, inflation. What's Donald Trump going to do next? A lot of comments, somebody's, celebrity dating habits. Kelsey, and what's her name? Sandra. Who's this? Shania, what's her name?
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. That's all bad. That's a concern. Well, that should be a higher concern than this lawsuit right now. We really don't know where it's going. So, but anyway, I just thought that was like, it's like breathe, stay calm, keep doing business. So that's kind of the framework of it. We will stay very close to it, and we'll be involved. And Texas Realtors, they got to take a lead on this one. The sad part of this has taken a lot of energy and a lot of money out of the economy of the real estate brokerage business and the associations, right? And so it's a distraction. But we'll be up for the fight and ready for the charge, and we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. But the main thing, to really be okay, we got to understand how to navigate these waters. That's what Bob's going to talk to us about, and then we'll go from there. So I'll give it back to Bob. I'll stay here for a while.
Before you give it back to me, are you receptive to any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, before I give it back to Bob.
Yeah.
I've done this before too. Any questions around any of that I just discussed? Yes.
So it's basically based on price fixing, period. That's in a nutshell.
That's probably too specific, but not collusion, which has affected affordability and inflated prices artificially, which could be called price fixes. And that we don't explain our services and why they're good. That's a big thing that'll probably come up is get that buyer rep agreement first meeting or as soon as you can. Not, hey, I want to bring it to closing. That's kind of a no. And some of us have done that in the distant past. But also up front, just educate, here's what I'm going to do for you. And we will probably come up with a agreement and say, here's my services. Here's what I'm going to provide for you. Now, I think that in the future, there's a lot to be learned, but my opinion is it's going to be pretty similar to what we got now. And we'll probably have a different wording on the seller agrees to pay a buyer representative. Okay. And which is kind of what we do now, but they don't like the language and they think it's forced and fixed. And people, it hurts low to middle income affordability. Well, have first time home buyers pay the commission. They're probably not buyers.
Right.
Right. Exactly. And they're very accepted for 100+ years of the system we've got. It's worked pretty well. This is the most incredible real estate system in the world. And so, again, breathe, stay calm. Yeah, keep it out there. Get that X's out there. We'll bring you the information, take care of you. April?
Is this going to affect dual agency in any way in the future that you see?
First, you want to get rid of the phrase dual agency. Doesn't exist in Texas. Intermediary is what we do. So, as you look through the process, when I talk a little bit later about my proposals, recommendations for how we move forward, we're going to be more attentive to the details. The real challenge with intermediary, there are two groups out there who, well, actually, when you include me, there are three, who don't like intermediary. One is Trek. The second, as you look through the process, people like myself who understand it better than we should, but anyway, but the group who loves intermediary are plaintiff attorneys. Because when you do intermediary, chances are doing it wrong is pretty high as you work through it. So we'll have to make sure that we do it, because the key to intermediary, and it's the big Trek thing, is informed consent. And if you don't do a good job of making sure they understand, that's one of the hearts of this whole thing, is they're saying the consumer doesn't understand what's happening here. And the consumer's getting screwed in the deal, and they don't know what's going on. There's no soft music. There's no, I mean, what's going on here? So one of the things we're going to do is in our training moving forward, as Mike points out, is we're going to be much more specific with our intent as we move forward. But the only impact on intermediary is to make sure we clearly understand it. And when we do it, make sure that not only do we understand it, but we're able to explain it to the clients and they understand what they've agreed to. That's how that's going to impact.
A little more good news, and Bob's already alluded to it, that half the realtors could go away, and you'd be okay with that. The forecast is 10% will go away. We haven't lost as many this year as was originally forecasted. It's coming down about 2%. And, but Lawrence Yun, the economist, he says there's a lag effect. It's usually a 12 to 18 month lag for people to get out of the business after they have decided they want to do something else, I'll put it that way.
And that's okay, by the way.
Yeah. And I remember when I was treasurer of NAR in 2004 and 5. In 2004 was the first time the membership ever reached 1 million. That was a big deal. We got 1 million members. That's 2004. And I remember the CEO of NAR at that time, who had been the CFO for 20 years, a guy named Dale Stinton. He said, it's been 700,000 or 800,000 for 30 or 40 years. That seemed to be a pretty good number. But now, everybody rushes to what looks like it's an easy job and we make a lot of money, right? So let's all get real smooth.
All those who know it's an easy job, stand up and leave.
I do it because of the freedom of time I'm going to get. Yeah, how's that working out? And other stuff. So anyway, so other questions? Thank you for being here, Bob.
Okay, so let's talk about some things that this whole lawsuit has kind of brought up that we need to be more aware of. First is we need to have a better understanding of the system that we're doing business within. We kind of understand the big picture. The thing that they totally incorrectly state in the lawsuit, you see it in the Texas Realtor one that talks about, and there's mirrors of basically what happened in Missouri and so forth. The concept is what we're dealing with is you've got sellers who want to sell their house. What benefits the seller is they want to sell their house? Not letting anybody know they want to sell their house, or letting a lot of people know they want to sell their house, which would be a better thing for a seller. Letting a lot of people know. Now, certainly as I remember back in the good old days, which weren't good for necessarily everybody, we didn't have a central system like MLS to get that exposure. It was really local. I can remember in Abilene, if you wanted to show a particular broker's house, you had to go to that broker. There wasn't a central clearinghouse or anything like that, which really limited what the seller could do in the transaction. So as we evolved into a more efficient multiple listing system, this greatly benefited the seller because he now had his property exposed to the maximum number of buyers he could get out there. Now, these buyers that are sitting out there, how are they going to find out about these sellers' properties? Do the buyers have access to that MLS? Back in the old days, not. They have a little bit more access now. What the buyers really needed was an agent who could find out about these properties for the buyer. And then the agent could do things like, yeah, here's the information on it, here's the CMA on it, here's the market, all these things. We'll talk in a few minutes about the 105 things that we bring to the deal that NAR has put out. So the buyer going through a realtor now has access to a much larger pool of property. Is that good for a buyer?
Yes.
Now, the seller is paying his agent for services. The services being the marketing of the property, helping negotiate the deal, going through it, and their NAR has two things. One, they've got 179 points here, the other 105 points. These are all things that value what we do. So the seller, should the seller pay their agent for all these things they're going to do? Yes. Now, one of the things we did wrong in 1913, when we adopted the NAR Code of Ethics, in spite of what some of my friends say, I wasn't there at the time, but I remember it well. We started off taking the easy road. Hey, seller, I'll tell you what, I can put some serious money in your pocket. It's not a problem. And by the way, you don't owe me anything until we get to closing. When you've got that big stack of money, just give me a little bit of it. Well, it was a bad start. But we went down that road a long, long time. And then we finally in Texas, and we were the third state in the country to really understand buyer agency and move forward. We began to understand, everybody doesn't really represent the seller. Well, that's who pays it. Well, that doesn't matter. So we began to evolve and went through this process. And what had happened is, because we had the seller needing all this money at closing, we said, by the way, seller, here's what we need to do. We need to give these buyer's agents a little bit of money because they're bringing a buyer to the deal. And until a buyer's agent brings a buyer to the deal, like we call that buyer's agent, that's the one who sold the property. Until they do that, nothing happens. And so the seller, oh yeah, I guess we ought to pay them something. And so they worked out a split and they go through the process. It was never from day one an amount. We never had from day one anything from any MLS in the country, from any board in the country. We never had anything that said, here's how much you should charge. Now, in spite of the fact that in the very first NAR Code of Ethics, which actually became a written Code of Ethics in 1913, there was one little clause in there that the broker must charge the commission as set by the local association. So at the very beginning, they kind of had something that was soon to be against the law. They got changed a little bit later. But we've never had anything that says, if you're going to list a property, if you're going to pay a buyer's agent, here's how much it has to be. We dealt with the concept. We never had an amount in there to work through it. Now, we got a buyer's agent who has the buyer, is going to bring the buyer to this large pool of properties. Should the buyer's agent get paid?
Yes.
Why?
Because they're working hard to get this.
Time, energy, money, very labor intensive. Buyer's agent should get paid. Who's going to pay them? Because there are really two possibilities. Who's going to pay the buyer's agent?
The buyer.
Buyer or the listing agent? The listing broker. Buyer or the listing broker. That's who's going to pay the buyer's agent. Now, it was an easy thing back in the day. Hey, I'm going to provide these services and good news, somebody else is going to pay my fee. Isn't that great? You're getting, in fact, sometimes you hear the phrase, which is wrong, and you're getting this free. You're getting this valuable service of mine free. Now, what that caused the buyer to think is there's no real value here. It's free. They're just doing this for a commission work of the process. We've worked hard to get past that, but that's what we had to deal with for a long time at the beginning. Frankly, until the 90s, when we began to move past the whole buyer agency concept and dealing with that. And we finally got to the point where we said, okay, buyer's agent should be paid. And now we got to work something out in the system about how the buyer's agent gets paid. And the listing agent had said to the seller, we need to pay that buyer's agent something. It's in the list agreement, which we're going to talk about. And they said, okay, fine, if that's what it takes to bring these agents to my property, then that's what we're going to do. And we worked through that. It worked out well. It did good, except people misunderstood who represented whom in the deal. Buyers didn't really totally understand that their agent represented them because they didn't pay their agent. Now, we did have, by the way, because at one point in time in my career, I swear of this, I was the broker for a buyer agency firm. And that's all we did. We only represented buyers. And at that point in time, we found a number of buyers who say, well, if you're going to represent me, then I'm going to pay you. I don't want to be any confusion whose agent you are. So they were opposed to the listing agent paying us. And there were a number of buyers that that's how they did business. Now, part of this whole thing that we're going through, lawsuit and all the things you got to pay attention to, is trying to move in that direction. Our big obstacle is financing. If we could get Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to do what VA already does and let you roll the funding fee into the loan, and if they could get our commissions built into the deal, then we could have a buyer paying the buyer's agent and the seller paying the listing agent, and all of this no longer makes sense. And if we can do that eventually over time and take a lot of years, and frankly, it'll take Congress involved, it'll take some changes in the law, it'll deal with things in the financing end of it. But that's the eventual direction that we're going to need to find ourselves going. In the meantime, we need to understand our value proposition with both the seller and the buyer. The little piece of paper that you have there talks about some recommendations. And what we're going to do is move in the direction that when you negotiate a listing, you're going to negotiate it not with a standard number that the brokerage says, here's how much you have to list. We went for a significant period of time and we said our standard commission, you're going to take a listing at 6%. Because if you do it less than 6%, you're not just less money for you, you're cutting into our money. We said, here's our standard policy. And here's, for a while official, then it was unofficial, but we have that. We can't have that anymore. We've got to move away from numbers and we got to deal with concepts. For a specific seller, whatever their circumstances are, that seller with their property in the market, with your evaluation of a listing, what's your time, energy, money going to take to sell that property, what's involved, what's your marketing program, all that's going to be very specific. And as you sit down with that seller and negotiate the whole listing and all the marketing, everything, and negotiate the commission, you can negotiate that commission based on what's going on with that seller and that property, not some standard broker says, well, if you take your listing, here's what it's going to be. One, it flies in the face of all of this, but second, it's not good business. This is one of those examples that the law and the rules aren't the best business practice. Track says to the broker, you get to set your internal policy. You get to tell your agent, here's how much you have to charge for a listing. Here's how much you have to pay the other side. A broker has that right under the track rules to set that policy. It's not good business. It's certainly not good business.
We don't say you have to.
Pardon me?
We have a guideline. We don't say you have to.
Yeah, we don't say, we don't make it a requirement.
Ahead of that, yeah.
We're very good at recognizing the phrase independent contractor. And you guys really are independent, aren't you? Some of them. Now look at Larry, some more independent than others. So we're going to move in the direction of our intent is for you to determine on every single listing, this is what makes sense, including one of the things that's included in your marketing is the BAC. What you offer to the other side is part of how that property is going to get marketed. One of the things that Netris has just done is, and you may or may not have known this was possible, you had the ability to search in MLS for commissions. You could do a BAC search. You can no longer do that. So Netris has pulled that.
I wondered why that was missing.
Yeah, so that's gone. Which, by the way, it's good that it's gone. It should not be there. You should not be able to say, well, I'm going to pull these properties together that I get the most money. Can't do that. Brandon?
You're laughing at me. No, I used to use it for lease purposes because I'm not gonna go, I don't want to show a lease.
Well, and there are some valid reasons. Here's the only really legitimate reason. You have a buyer representation agreement with your buyer, and your buyer's agreed to pay you 3%. And you had the conversation with your buyer as you went to your paragraph 11 of that agreement. And you say, now, here's what we need to agree on. If there are properties out there where they offer less than 3%, before I even show you those properties, I'll let you know. I'll make you aware of it. Because if they're only going to pay me 2%, you owe me the other 1%. And that's a judgment call you make for that specific buyer. And so if you did that, when you do the search, you can find those properties that meet your buyer's profile that only offer less than 3% to be able to warn your buyer. You can't do that anymore. So that little element taken away, and this probably was a good thing. Because unfortunately, there are many, many agents who make use of that, and it's not for their buyer's benefit, it's for their benefit. And they literally, we've always known that there are agents out there that if you offer 1.5% to 2%, they're not going to show you property. That's just the nature of some of those agents.
Yeah, a couple of points to that, support that is, one thing we used to talk about as an option is if you're going to take a fee at 4 to 5%, that you might still offer in the best interest of your seller, the 3% as a co-op, and you take the cut on your side. But if that's just in the seller's best interest, that's a choice. Some people have since gone to 2.5 or 2.5. I've seen in a lot of things start west and they say go east. That's not always true. But I've seen it in California where people would have, let's say, I'm just picking numbers, for example, okay, 6%, but they're paying 2.5 on the co-op. They're keeping 3.5. And I've seen it the other way where they're taking for 4, but offering 3 to the other agent. We have And that's coming into our market a little bit. I think we'll see more of it, as Rob suggested. I've also seen on the other side, knowing your value proposition is what we're talking about here. There's a very prominent realtor in Virginia in our company, and they have an opt fee, and I think it's 6, 7, or 8% in presenting to their sellers. And yet their co-op fee is 2 or 3. They do case by case. So they may take 8%, pay 2. As opposed to taking 4%, paying 3. All right, now, they have built a great system, and they are incredibly effective in their marketing and their success for their clients. So let's not jump to how can they do that? That's wrong or right. That's value proposition, presentation. And some of you know who I'm talking about, and a couple of you, I'm not going to mention their name, but that's a model, right? And so I think going forward, part of our challenge or opportunity is what it is we're going to be discussing all this on what's your value proposition and how do you present it, right? I really don't think it's going to change a lot. We're going to tweak the words and maybe some paperwork and maybe some new presentation materials. But again, breathe, be calm. This is good stuff. Go back.
Okay, Maggie. And I understand what you're saying, and one of the things is,
I didn't get something. I'm in the weeds.
okay, Sally, go ahead. Question.
Okay, he said something, Mike, you said something about if I show a property and they're only offering 2% to the buyer's agent. I can offer to credit that buyer. I mean, I can offer to pay part of the, what are you saying?
I don't think I said, I think what you're referring to
You
is
see, I'm in the weeds.
I think what Bob was referring to is it may be that well, first of all, you may choose not to show something if it's that, unless you want to try and get the 1% from the buyer. What Bob was saying, it may be at a co-op fee of 2%, but in your consultation with your buyer and your services, say my fee as a buyer rep is 3%. In this particular case, we're being offered 1, so you would owe me as my client the 1% to get to my fee of 3%. That's what he was saying, right?
And that's a judgment call on your part.
Now, most will yield. Maybe through training we can change it. Most people say, well, I just can't do that. I want to ask. That's why a lot of people run to a $4.99 transaction fee or cheaper. Well, okay. How many of you always like to choose cheap? I didn't say less expensive. You go cheaper schools, cheaper cars. We can always get one. I don't care what car you got right now, you can get a cheaper one, right? It's what fits you. It's what you're buying, what works for you.
And I legally asked them, this is the fact, my fee is 3%.
Ask
So your buyer's rep.
Ask your buyer's
Okay, slow down. Can you legally ask who?
I thought you wanted me to talk slower.
That's okay.
I was like,
Can
I'm
you legally
already
ask who?
slow.
Who?
If I am representing a buyer, and I tell the buyer, my fee is 3% to represent you.
Yeah.
And here's all the things I'll do for you.
And there's 102 things I'm gonna do for you. This list. Also, I want you to know. And I say, however, there are some listings where they're only willing to pay me 2%, which means we're gonna be short 1%. Which means if they're not gonna pay me, then that would fall on you.
That's not quite the way you stated it.
That might not be the language I use, but yes, you're on the right track.
I read the words on the contract, I read those words.
Right.
On the contract, that has a little blank. And I say, do you understand that? Yes. And I say, so, do you want me to show you those houses
Exactly.
that I know are gonna pay less than 3%? And then they decide, no, I don't wanna see them. Or, yeah, I'm willing, but they make that decision. Is that legal?
That's exactly the right way to do it.
Oh, I'm doing it right now. Yes, I'm like, I don't want to.
So, but it's, what's important also to add to this, because it's a really great point, you will make the judgment call on each buyer. You may have a very low percentage commission and your dollar amount's still very high, Jenny. So you negotiate based on that buyer. If you're still getting a $90,000 commission on this $12 million deal, you don't say, oh, by the way, there's an extra 2% in here that I need. You're not going to have that conversation. You get to make a judgment call on a specific buyer that you may say, you know what? Here's the deal. Now, many of you, and I've had this conversation over and over again with you, say, you know what? Whatever the other side's paying, I'm okay with that. I say, make sure you understand with the NAR ruling, it might be zero. It's okay. It's okay. I said, well, you just made real estate a hobby, and that's okay if you know that's a decision you made. A hobby is something that all you do is spend money, you don't have any income, that's a hobby. Generally, real estate doesn't need to be a hobby for you, but you get to make that decision. With a particular buyer, other things going on, as he talks about, when you're making those judgment calls on clients, you get to make that decision. But make sure you understand you've made that decision and you communicate that to your client as you go through the process.
Right, and that came up this week. It used to be you had to offer at least 1 penny. And they decided to do it with it. So 1 penny could be zero. That's just changed. So now, by the way, it used that we had a big deal about 10 or 15 years ago in Des Moines, Iowa, where the big broker there, which was Home Services, it was Iowa Realty anyway, they were a dominant player, 70% market share. We come in and we became a threat. And they made a decision to co-op pay. If we are the buyer, if we're the co-op agent, if they got control of the listing, that they would pay us $1. Our agents $1. All right, and Mo Anderson at One Family Reunion raised almost $1 million to go into what's called the family fund to make it up to those agents. Joe, you remember that, right? And the interest in it, right always prevails. And so I called Lori Janik, who's the general counsel of NAR at that time. I said, what's it? She said, Mike, rules are you must cooperate, doesn't say you must compensate at a certain level. And so that's all evolving as well. By the way, in Des Moines, Iowa, we are now #1. And a lot of it came from that company based on that behavior and the not right thing. So, yeah.
Brandon, did you have follow-up on some of this before we go to our next points?
I would just ask you, did they talk about NAR, do they own any of it? Lack of explaining to the general public, do they own any of it? Are they gonna do any changes? NAR as a whole, I know the blogs I'm reading, realtors are not happy giving dues. So I'm just curious.
I think when NAR is as a whole, first of all, it's not really their response. What they're gonna do is through their public relations campaign, you see their ads, which I think they're wearing for Realtor.com and who we are, the Realtor are and stuff like that. I'm sure there will be some modification there, just to show. In fact, I saw a preview, they showed a preview, which was almost emotional about how much we are a part of America and home ownership and American dream and all that. That's going to be, it was a preview of an ad that's going to be going out under that campaign. So that's trying to go to the court of public opinion.
Well, that's where we need it, like the property values and things like that, the court opinion.
Yeah.
If they do nothing more than that, that would be great.
Yeah. But should the appeal be awarded, that we can the appeal. That's, if you gotta get it, you don't want to get it. Much better going in front of a panel of 3 judges than a jury of 9 peers.
With the assumption they're a little more educated.
All those
They know the
jurors,
law.
all those jurors need to be judges.
Yeah.
So kind of to Brandon's point, to expand on this, NAR will do whatever NAR does. Most important part, though, of educating the consumer is going to be us. We're going to have to do it one agent at a time, one client. I know that CCAR has a very strong program, a community program, in which we work through the process, educate the public about who we are, about who we do. I've said this a number of times, and it's still true. As an industry, we've not done a good job of educating people on who we are and what we do. Individually, now this has caused us to accelerate and really emphasize and say, here is what we do. First of all, the number of sellers who believe we're signing the yard, come to closing, what else? What else is, unfortunately, sometimes the reason they believe that is because that was the experience they had with an agent. That's what a realtor did. We're signing the yard, said, okay, now if you really want to have an open house, that's what I can do. But that's the deal. So now we are going to go through the process. Some of the training we're going to do, the buyer rep agreement and the listing agreement. We're going to do some specific training. We're not going to have the situation which certainly not anybody in this room, not anybody in our office. I'm saying that in an incredibly optimistic, hopeful manner. Ever looks at the listing agreement and says, okay, we agree on the price, we agree on the commission, sign here, let's move forward, get this sign in the yard. The reality is we've got to now emphasize that entire agreement and make sure people understand this is what we've agreed to. There are like 3 paragraphs in there that all deal with the seller's responsibilities. And they need to understand what those are, their promises. They need to understand what those are, what the agent's responsibilities are. We've got in the lease agreement, here's what we're gonna pay the other side, MLS, not MLS, ACS. We have to really emphasize those kinds of things and make sure that we truly understand it. Same thing on the buyer rep agreement. One of the things that sometimes our own agents don't understand, if you have a buyer client and you don't have a buyer representation agreement, you cannot show any of our listings. Why? You're an intermediary and you can't be intermediary without a written consent on both sides, and you don't have that. And yet, I know it happens, unfortunately, it's just paperwork, we'll eventually get it done, certainly by the time we write a contract. Wrong. We're gonna talk about the timing of that. And by the way, I'm one of those people that I don't think it's the first thing you have it signed. I think you need to know more about that buyer. Before you commit to the buyer, maybe you need to go out with them and see how reasonable they are in the marketplace.
How many of you ever worked with a buyer you wish you'd never met? How many of you ever worked with a seller you wish you'd never met?
And by the way, we support your ability to fire a client. And we've all had those conversations from time to time as you work through that. So we're gonna do some more specific training in that. But one of the things that kind of came out of our conversation about, you're gonna make some judgment calls with a specific seller and their property and make some decisions on that listing, the terms of that listing, including the commissions, including the BAC. It's my opinion, and this is exactly the right time for Mike to say, Bob, you've just gone too far. And it's my opinion that BAC at 3% is gone. That can no longer be supported. We can't do it. We can't say, here's the number. What we're gonna say is, here's the concept. Here's what you gotta do with your buyer. Here's what you do with the seller. Here's what, for that specific seller, it may be that for that seller, you need to offer 4%. Because it's kind of piece of property. It may be that's under a procedures manual as we put together our new that. It'll explain the parameters for that. So
I won't say you can't say that. I will say it's a guide. Here's a guideline, and here's how you work from it either direction. Right?
Okay.
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 Close enough. Coffee over there. Or a Coke. So.
Quick question, if I understand.
Yes.
The lawsuit, is it about that they're saying that I don't know if I understood it, we inflate the value of the properties? Is that what is the lawsuit about? But how are we inflating? What we do, we study the market, whatever the market price, that's how we represent the value. How am I inflating the market value?
Well, they're saying because of our policies and our cooperation and everything we've been talking about, that has artificially inflated it and caused expense. In this case, they're saying to the buyers.
See, okay.
Because they're paying more for a house because the commission's flowing this way, where there would be no commission if it had to go straight, in many cases, from buyer to agent.
They would not have those auctions, how many houses they're seeing, the work we are doing, the research we are doing for them.
You get the gold star. Okay.
Absolutely. The value is there, no question about it. If you want to go to the Texas Realtor site and pull down this lawsuit they received, about 37 pages, it's got some really good explanations in there of the plaintiffs and what they're alleging.
And let me just say real quick, and throughout here, they're all, and the other suit too, the Sitzer and Burden, is they're just saying this is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's a conspiracy.
Never conspired with anyone, or colluded, or conversed with, or it's just.
Cahooters? Y'all are cahooters out there.
I mean, sellers have always had choices. They could go to this guy over here that charges $1,500 flat listing fee. I mean, it's not like we're holding the fee.
Or the gold star.
I don't get it.
You're absolutely correct.
There's so many of us that if you're doing a buy sell, you give a discount on the sell side, you've got both sides.
Choice.
You know, it's a choice, but there's a lot of people that do that without you ever having had pushback or tell us yes or no, or.
Joe?
And there's still sellers and buyers out there that believe that the commissions, are incorporated to the price of the house.
Well, there's
And that's just
Yeah.
not being educated.
Yeah, public percent, I mean, how many times? Well, the standard is 6%, right? I hear that from the public all the time. I've heard it for years. I don't hear it as much now.
I mean, it's not.
Not here.
Well, but that perception is a real challenge as you work through. It's a big, because several of the things in this lawsuit, when Mike's talking about, that was totally incorrect, is they established that NAR required the compensation. As he pointed out a few minutes ago, there is no requirement. I said, because NAR requires it, if it's a seller, you want your property in MLS to be able to get that maximum exposure, here's what you have to do. You've got to inflate the price of that, out so you can get more money, but you got to pay the rest of the market. And it said by doing that, you inflate it. The concept that the buyer is paying the commission in the sales price of the house. At one level, that could be true on a specific piece of property, but remember, this property, by being through our system, is going to sell for more 99.9% of the time than it would otherwise. April?
I don't see how in the world, how can they prove that it's artificially inflated, especially in the past 2 years in the market, that inflated the market, that our commissions inflated the market, when the market just went crazy, and we know it was inflated.
Yeah.
And so how do you prove that as a plaintiff's attorney?
I don't know.
I don't either.
But remember, we're talking about all the stuff we got going here. We got almost 11,000 local associations. You got all those things. And this whole thing we're talking about, were 8 people sitting on a jury. And 4 of them had nothing to do with anything. Didn't know, he had said, real estate, huh? What? And so 8 people. And so the plaintiff attorneys, when they saw who those 8 people were, had to be just licking their chops. Oh, boy, this is gonna be easy. We don't have to prove anything. We just, and the reality is, when you've got any kind of a complexity, many as I've said on those kinds of juries, and I've operated as expert witness in them, when I look at these 6 to 8, rarely ever more than 8 jurors sitting there, and I look at them, I see that glazed look on their face. They have no clue what we're talking about. And they look at the plaintiff, and they look at plaintiff attorneys, and they look at the defendants, and they pick which one they like the most. And we all know we're bad guys. We're out making big bucks, driving big cars, living in nice houses, going to parties all the time. This is who we are.
It's definitely played as a David versus Goliath.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
That's what they try to put in their mind.
And so it's not, frankly, it's not surprising at this early stage that these 8 people would come up with that kind of a decision as you work through it. Then when more informed people, judges who theoretically at least have more knowledge of the law and all, and I think that's what NAR keeps saying is there's been so many things that are wrong as the law sets up.
So let's have a little fun, little one. Who's got a calculator? Who can divide 1.8 billion? That's a lot of zeros. 9 zeros. I think that's 9 zeros. 1.8 billion, 8 zeros after the 8. Divide that by 1.5 million.
0.5 billion?
1.5 million.
Million.
Yeah.
1.8 billion, that's a judgment by 1.5 million realtors.
Within like 10 grand.
1,200.
How much?
1,200.
12,000.
12,000.
12,000.
Times 3, because it's treble damages, 36,000. That's what every one of you is going to owe.
Let me take a check. Post dated.
Yeah, everyone's going to owe $36,000 to keep themselves. No, I'm kidding.
That's more than the average realtor, though. That's what's funny about it.
Like more than.
That's the breakdown. I'm just trying to. Yeah, I read that. Yeah. So that's not going to happen. It's not.
But that's just the average. We're talking
Yeah.
about
They're
multi-million-dollar listings.
Gary and a few others. So. Interesting. Keller Williams is the only non-public company in the big suit. I mean, all the others are, public companies. So yeah. Remax Anywhere, Draftway.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Tracy and then Holly.
Okay, go ahead. I was gonna ask, what is the prevailing wisdom from other brokerages where they've said that they would, they folded as opposed to wanting to appeal? Like, I don't understand that, because to me, it seems like a very dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like an all for one, one for all thing with these big players. It's one thing if some little piddly mom and pop, but we're talking Remax and Century 21, and they're like national and international as well.
Well, so this is part of the system. Question I asked was, how could a jury, they will have heard about it, and not think about, well, if Remax settled and Cobalt or Realogy, all their brands settled, they must have some guilt.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how, so why wouldn't the others just be named as well? How can you not get that in their mind? And they said, well, they said they did not admit guilt when they settled. I'm with you. The jury's not gonna, they're gonna go, well, this is easy, get everyone. Yeah.
But why would they, I just don't understand the thought processes as their board of directors that got together and said, let's just settle.
Yeah, well.
Let's not fight this, we're just gonna
Winds don't look
destroy,
good, let's take.
we're just gonna destroy the.
So anyway, we don't want, yeah.
Okay, very quickly, to answer that. And we see this in E&O cases where we're sued, we're going to E&O, we got an E&O company going through the process, and we're sitting there and going through discoveries, depositions, and a mediation to work through it. And my agent is just livid, the fact that this is even happening. Said, we didn't do anything, these people are idiots, it's frivolous, I mean, they don't deserve a dime. And yet we know we're gonna pay our deductible. We know the E&O company's gonna settle at some dollar amount. And what happens is, has nothing to do with what's right and wrong. It's a business decision. And our E&O simply says, you know what? Because we know the dollar amount, how drastically it increases if we end up going to trial. You make a business decision, and that's a hard thing for an agent to understand why these bad people get any money at all.
But I actually get that part, but we're talking about caving on this is like a fundamental.
It's not caving, it's a business decision.
Well, yeah.
Denton?
I think they're more worried about the stock price too, but that business part of it.
Well, sure.
More worried about what?
Part of the stock price of those public companies becomes a business decision, sure. Yeah, but I don't think it's an automatic that if they don't settle, that the prices go up or down. I can see some of their stockholders saying, okay, well, we kind of made a business decision, but we sure look bad. I can see some of the stockholders saying, maybe it's going down because they don't like what leadership did, as they work through that process. Diane?
What's a good response to the general, people, oh, you're with Keller Williams? Yeah, we heard about how you guys are partying a big lawsuit.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
What do you think, Mike? How should Diane respond when asked? You probably don't want to bring it up, but when asked.
Just saying that's what was the question? We're involved in it.
No, when one of her clients says, I've heard about our prospects, I've heard about Keller Williams lawsuit, what's going on here?
Well, the whole industry, basically the whole industry's involved in that, and it's gonna be a long process, and.
So, they've seen in the media who's named. Literally every brokerage is named.
All your competitors are involved in this. Mike's right, it's the entire industry. So it's not like you can say, well, you're a Keller Williams, so you must be bad guys because you're in a suit. Well, so is everybody else. Yeah, but, okay.
We gotta say, we all read that, but we know the best and sharpest in our industry are on it, and, it doesn't affect my relationship with
Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, listening to what everybody's saying and like Diane's question, this is the time to focus on the fact that you are an independent contractor. Not that you're embarrassed to be a part of a company or anything like that, just say, look, that's beyond what I do. I'm an independent contractor, and then you really just focus on you communicating what you do for people. And I think Bob said that a lot, because when I think about how I break down commission when I go talk to a seller, I talk about who gets paid on everything. I just don't have anything that I give to you. And, I think it could be as simple as a piece of paper explaining that this is my fee, but this is what I do, right?
Start.
Because I know that in my old KW office, there were agents that had listing packages up to 8%, and they were getting people to pay them. But it's because they had documentation and information that showed the value of what they did. And I think that it could be really, really simple if you just have a page in your listing presentation. This is my standard, obviously this is negotiable. This is my standard, not the industry standard. This is my fee, right? And I've been trying to take the word standard out of my vocabulary ever since all that has happened. But I think, if you put that, I recommend that 3% of what I receive from you goes to the buyer's agent because it assists with blah, blah, blah. If you can explain that, that's a.
You understand the degree where you can explain to them so they'll understand it, that's the key.
Yeah, but I think that giving, we always talk about documentation and like certain things you want to put in writing and things like that. This is absolutely something that you should put in writing as part of your listing
And
presentation.
so a little bit more, to Diane's point, dealing a little bit with perceptions here, a lot of you see out in the media. One of the first things I really want everybody to get the mindset on is to be very proud of who you are. Is that you're a realtor, you're a Keller Williams legacy realtor, you're very good at what you do. And that when you're talking to somebody who says, gee, you're Keller Williams, I heard it. Okay, first of all, let's talk about me and who I am. I'm very proud to be a realtor. There's an industry thing going on. You know what? There's always an industry something going on. And we've had that forever. But I want you to know, I know what I'm doing. I'm very good at what I'm doing. I'm very proud of who I am and what I do. Let's talk about it. Well, that process.
Yeah, and I don't think you back off the, in fact, I couldn't be more proud of Keller Williams than I am now. How Gary Keller stood up and what he did. And how he's going to the wall, going to the floor, whatever the phrase is on this. And yeah, there's no back down that. But Darby said it, it's communication and presentation and your standard and your value, right? And we talked about earlier, some of you came in a little bit, but that's going to be a real focus is how do you communicate this in the future in our training, right?
And we'll have some serious emphasis on that. Larry, did you have something that I'm willing to hear?
I just wanted to add in this whole conversation, we're very in the know on this stuff and it's sort of dominating the conversations now, but I'm not gonna assume that everybody I talk to in my sphere even knows about this lawsuit. I don't think we should proactively.
A lot of them, no one has asked.
Oh, you don't? You won't ever bring it up. They'll always respond. And by the way, let's make this 100% clear. I know we're going to be on our YouTube channel and we're recording like that. You won't have any of these conversations at all, ever, ever, ever with anyone outside of this brokerage. You cannot have any of these conversations about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it with any of our competitors. It's not for competitive reasons, it's for collusion reasons. Okay. They're right about that. That if we get together and have those conversations, we're colluding. And that's a violation of all kinds of law. So this is us. This is us internally. And it points out really how good we are. That we've got Mike here, at the very top of this, dealing with it, working through it, giving us insights that other people just don't have. As good as other even KW officers are, they don't have this. And I think that's a real plus for us. But it stays here. It stays with us. And you need to really stay on top of that.
I'm not saying that's exactly right, but I think this is a good situation where you never let a good crisis pass without taking advantage of the opportunities within it.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of opportunity within this, and that's what we're gonna focus on. It'll give you an edge in what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, so my question would be, going to a listing appointment, especially with someone I've not met, and this comes up, or several times when I'm out at dinner and somebody approaches me about it, I just don't, how do you take this lawsuit and make it I am who I am, and because a lot of people don't even understand it, so like, for me to kind of explain it.
I'll just say it came out of a plaintiff's class action suit. The state, it's gotten a lot of national attention. It's being dealt with at the highest levels. It's going to be a long process. And you try to defend it or debate it or get into it. I don't mean just watch it and say, you got the skill set and kind of shit.
So Donna, you can say,
hey, I'm curious too. But right now, it's going to be years before we see any change, if any.
So Donna, you can say to that prospect or that person out that says, I'm aware of it. We understand it. And it has not changed my commitment to the highest level of service to my clients. I am still doing business at the highest level as I have always done and will continue to do. Now, we'll make some tweaks. There'll be some things that we'll work on a little bit, but the best risk management tool you have is to provide the highest level of client level service. You do that, that's your best deal. That's going to protect you from 99% of any problems out there. And you just need to be comfortable. You need to be confident. Now, it was an interesting thing, and you remarked on it. When Gary was there testifying, I sent Gary Keller an email. That was kind of gutsy. Gary Keller wouldn't know me from me. Now, I dropped a name in here. It says I'm in Brody's office. And I said two things. One, I said, I suspect there's a lot more to this than what we're seeing in the public. And second, I said, thank you for being our advocate and being here. He responded to me in an email. I mean, given all that he's got going on, he took the time to respond to me. And one, he said, you're right. There is a lot more going on than what you're seeing. He said, second, thank you for appreciating what we're doing. That's Gary Keller. That's who we're part of. I mean, that's somebody we feel good about. And frankly, that's who we are. We can never let go of the fact that we're on top of this. I mean, we really are aware. And the most important part of this, as we make whatever changes, just like when we talk about changing the listing and admission, all like that, it's all focused on the client. It's all focused on how is this best for the client. As long as you've got that focus on there, and our focus is to you to make sure that you have everything you need to do your job most effectively, take care of your clients most effectively, and take care of each other.
I like that. And let's just remember the possibility is when it gets to appellate court, it gets kicked out. It gets totally overturned. It's dead. They got to start over if they want to continue. So then when that happens, I don't think we run to our people at those dinner conversations, wherever, say, hey, guess what? You know, that big lawsuit we talked about, we probably never talked about it. Most of them don't even know about it. And we just don't be, they're cocky or guys, just breathe, stay calm, and go somewhere else and go serve people.
As you have other of our agents who weren't able to be here, who not on Zoom, they recorded, when they talk to you internally, we can do all that. Your communication needs to be some of the answers we just talked about. Regarding me to do what?
Or send them to me and you.
Send them, yeah, send them. Yeah, if they got some question and you're not comfortable with answers, send them to me, send them to Mike, and we'll have those conversations. Yeah, and Joe, leadership here, because we're pretty comfortable with where we are and what we're doing, and we want them to be comfortable. I mean, your answer can be as simple as, there's a lot, we feel really good about where we are in this. I want you to give Mike or Dick or Jill a call and visit with them, and they can really fill it in for you. Because we want everybody, we want all of our people to feel really good about where we are in this. Because as Steve pointed out, we're in a good place. When a crisis hits, people who should have been gone are gone. And those who stay are staying at a very high level, and that's a good thing. The industry will benefit, the clients will benefit, the realtors who are still here will benefit. And this, unbeknownst to the plaintiff attorneys, this will actually turn against them and turn for the industry. It'll be a good situation.
Are we perfect? No. Is this an opportunity to become more perfect? Yeah. As well.
Yeah, we're just good, and that's okay. It's good to be good as you work.
But if better is possible, good's not enough. Focus on that.
You'll always work on being better. It's just like Tony's golf game. As good as it is, he'll work on it being better, won't he? Or maybe even Brad.
Brad just hopes to be Jessica someday.
I'm not that faded a long time. Shots fired. That's the shots, that's.
Is this helping at all and helping?
Actually, I need shots against her, that's what it is.
Yeah, go ahead. Is this helping a little bit? Getting good information to you? Ask some questions that want you to feel more comfortable working through it. What else you feel like you need? We will have training. We're going to have training on the listing agreement, on the buyer rep agreement, on the policy procedures manual to make sure we understand how we're tweaking this, how we're moving this forward. This will all go through all the leadership, so everybody's on board with how this happens.
So let me just comment on that.
Yes, sir.
There's no dictated change right now for this suit. We're just looking at what they're saying in there, and we're trying to adjust and be more comfortable with what some of the allegations are, where we can just tweak. So there's nothing that's happened that says you have to go change all this stuff. And it may never happen. Right? So we're going to prepare, you prepare for the worst, hope for the best, right? So.
Can I get clarification on something?
Yes, ma'am.
So where it says in the second paragraph, Trent allows the broker to set commissions internally, including what the listing agent will offer to the buyer's agent, MLS, and other marketing. So we previously had just an office policy for 3% of the buyer's agent. Is that now negotiable?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it was always negotiable. You just had to
Until Mike
For the
corrects me,
buyer's
the
agent,
answer is
for the
yes.
buyer's agent, okay.
But it doesn't say,
But it was always.
that's a recommended, it's not a set.
No, it wasn't. It was
Ask-
internal.
No, internal it was the policy, but if you didn't want to do it, you just had to talk to Bob.
Here's the overriding internal. Internally, the policy is for you to negotiate with your client on a specific circumstance. Whatever that might be. You know, we may have recommendations, we may have opinions, we may say, you know, here's what we feel is a really good norm, but you've got to look at your specific situation, say, here's what's right. We'll respect that. If you got any questions, call me, call Jill, call Mike, and we'll work through it.
So what we're not saying is, my office or my company says I have to charge this. That's not what we're saying.
It was only for the buyer's agent commission. It
Yeah.
wasn't for the overall listing commission.
But back in the day, we had a 6% standard that we required. That was, recommendation, yeah. Not required. But we did have an actual policy went through our ALC about the 3%.
Okay, that's what I'm referring to.
But what we're moving away from that policy,
Okay.
we're moving to recommendations that for each client, you negotiate what's appropriate.
That's
You're
what
not
I'm referring
required,
to.
or no standard for it to be any particular number.
Okay, that's
I'll give
good.
an example of what we encourage you not to do. This is a real case, I won't mention name. 15 years ago, we had an agent, a good agent, who did a mass mailing to a neighborhood like Little Bend Lakeside or Russell Creek or Preston, wherever it was. Mass postcard mailing saying, my fee is 4%, my listing fee is, my total fee is 4%. Right? And so we went to that agent and said, you don't do that. So you do that, that puts the rest of us in that situation. That's your fee. And, but it implies because of your affiliation with Keller, Williams that we did on. They refused to change, and we did too. So we don't accommodate their relocation. That's the way I put it. So that's just, we're not gonna let you put up 1% billboards like Redfin. That's their policy. That's a company policy. That's not an agent.
And by the way, when that happened and they went to another broker, we sent that other broker a thank you note.
Yes, you guys are so good. You're gonna get your piece.
Just a question, just like that, is it possible the lawsuit has become, because last 2 years, we've been seeing a lot of things, I have seen that, not in our office, but a lot of the agents, like, they're like downside, oh, I think this person is this and that, it colluded the whole system. And, oh, I'm not gonna take it because I'm cheap, this is the thing, I mean, and they don't do anything, they just sign paper. Is that the reason we're getting on this thing?
They're chasing,
And they are not even doing work, they just sign papers.
I'd say they're caving in, they're being desperate, they're chasing. Instead of standing strong because of difficult market. I mean, listings, units are down 40% from pre-COVID. Number of sales. Real estate market's not in a recession. This is my statement. Real estate business is in a recession. Now, next year, units are supposed to go up, according to Lawrence Yun last week. Twice I heard you say, units are supposed to go up 18% from this year, number of sales. Now, understand, we went down 20 and 20. 18% doesn't get us back to here. It gets us back to about here. The arrow will start moving in the right direction. That makes sense? So, and he's also said interest rates, he gave all the reasons with the Fed not raising, but actually maybe cutting it early in the year, that he thinks mortgage rates will be in the 6 to 7 range by spring. That'll be a big help.
More interest and less realtors. So I mean, the pie would be much better.
That'd be great, yeah, we're just not gonna pick which ones are gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so, look, Diane, it looks like you had a question.
Cheryl has.
Cheryl had a
I'll talk to you about it.
Okay, good.
No, I'll talk to you about it.
Okay. Guys, anything else? Hopefully this has helped you. Thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being who you are and doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. You have that information before they put it out.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being here.
All right, Bob.
Yes,
So listing I had about 5 months ago.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to my clients. Yeah.
Let's catch up.
Yeah. Well, we had that conversation. I was wrong. I was just questioning.